Welcome to the SideQuesters podcast. This is Ep.4. My name is Justin Staggs, and I am joined by my co-host Ryan McNeal. We are here to talk about video games and anything entertainment related. First on the list is Captain Marvel. That's kind of been a big deal the past few weeks. Did you get a chance to see it, Ryan?
I did. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Not spectacular, but it was good.
See, I think I had the opposite reaction. I thought it was pretty amazing. I think it's pretty high up there on some of my favorite Marvel movies. It kind of goes in the order of, Guardians of the Galaxy, Civil War, and then Captain Marvel. So, as far as characters go, I think they did a really good job at fleshing Captain Marvel out, and I think Brie Larson did a excellent job for the character and like her attitude and everything like that. And it was just cool. I didn't expect to care about the villains, and then it kind of made me care about the villains, and then not the villains. Spoiler, but you know what I mean. I just thought it was a good movie. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I had to see it a second time with a different group of friends, and I wasn't really annoyed to see it a second time. So I guess that's saying something.
So for me, my problem with the movie, or these are my problems with the movie, the dialogue seemed kind of stiff to me. I don't know if you felt this same way. And I don't know what it was, but it kind of, I wasn't really feeling the way that Brie Larson was delivering some of her lines, but that may be also a part of the dialogue as well. I also didn't really think that I thought that the jokes that they were trying to fit in there were like in weird places in some of the scenes. Like, for instance, when they get into a crash, like Brie Larson is trying to free somebody from their plane, and the person like cracks a joke there, and it didn't seem like the time for a joke there. And I would say that the action in the last half of the movie was great, but the first half of the movie I just wasn't feeling it. I was actually a little bit bored. But overall, like I think it was a good movie. It was a surprise that the enemies weren't who we thought they were and everything like that, and I think it has a bright future going forward, but for this movie it just didn't resonate with me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see where you're coming with the dialogue, but I think I kind of went in, I guess, with different expectations. I mean, it was a Marvel movie, and I don't know. I did like. This is a completely spoiler discussion, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, don't listen to this, or do if you just don't care about that stuff. But I did like Stan Lee's cameo, and how it calls back to Mallrats. So that was really cool. And if you get a chance, Kevin Smith put out a response about seeing that, and it was almost a tearjerker. It's kind of cool seeing that little exchange they had together in that relationship come full circle.
It's gonna hit me in the feels like every time he makes a cameo now. And I love that, like, in the very beginning of the movie, you know how they usually have the Marvel thing with all the flickering, like, comic book chapter things going on. They had Stan Lee.
Yeah, it was just like Stan Lee all the time. It was just like
Stan all Lee, the different cameos he made. In the movie,
like it was super cool. Like, and then the message in the beginning, they put just giant text on the screen that says "Thank you, Stan." Or so like, it's cool. It was really cool. I'm wondering how we're going to see his cameo going forward. I know people said that at least the rummagings on the internet is that he pre-filmed a lot of this stuff. So interesting to see going forward if they continue to use his likeness when they run out of some of that footage for future Marvel movies. Do they just put a CG character in there, or
Yeah,
uh,
if they do, they'll probably be just like how they did with Princess Leia in Star Wars.
yeah, and it'll be better though because I think his cameos are always so short. It's not like a central character to the story of the movie. I mean, he created these characters, but his cameos are always really short and sweet. And I don't think I would be. I think Stan would be okay with a CG version of himself living on in Marvel movies. I think he would totally be fine with that.
Yeah, yeah, I do too.
Um, And I guess moving on, so one of the new games that came out that's been pretty big, a couple ones, but Devil May Cry 5. It's not really my kind of jam of a game, but I appreciate it. But did you get a chance to pick it up and play it?
Yeah, so I've been playing this for about half of the week. I can't really tell you how far I am, but I'm at the part where you start playing as Dante.
So you
In the
play
game,
multiple characters.
yeah,
Okay.
in this game you play as three different characters, which is Dante, Nero, and a new character called V. And each of them have their own fighting abilities. For instance, Nero has his sword, he has his guns, but he also has Devil Breaker, and it's basically like a robot arm,
I like robot
where he
arms.
can perform all kinds of he can perform all kinds of different attacks, like an electric attack or like a rocket where his fist just like starts flying in the air and punching enemies like left and right.
So like
And
Baymax style.
yeah, and like the best part about it is that you can even like surf on the fist and just like keep on punching enemies in the air like that. It's amazing. Um,
So like a good action game,
yeah,
like
and
straight
then
to the point, fun. Um, have you found anything you don't like?
so the thing that I don't like about the game so far is that there are a ton of load screens. You're just
Ah,
constantly going in and out of fighting and load screen. It. The problem is that it just takes you out of the flow of the action and everything.
is it really that excessive? I feel like as time has gone on and game design has progressed, and I feel like expectations have changed a bit for gamers. We've been kind of gifted these big giant open worlds and the continuity and like the stories. Like I think Last of Us did it really well, and so did God of War, where it doesn't really ever take you out of the element, and by all means it makes for a much better immersive experience. uh but I can't help but think, but sometimes we get a little like, like we're like, loading screens, what is this is nonsense. It's
Oh,
2019, we don't need loading screens.
I can understand that argument, but that the thing is that that's part of evolving. That's part of moving the medium forward. And the fact that more and more games have made it so that you don't see near as many load screens, it just means that a game like this where you're seeing a ton of them is a little more antiquated in that aspect. um
Do you think that comes from
but that doesn't.
Capcom? Do you think that comes from Capcom? Like they're a Japanese company, and they I know a lot of these companies that still are creating games in Japan. I feel like change is hard for a lot of them, so I feel like they get into their design formulas, and uh, it's hard for them to try new things, I would say.
Yeah, I can't really tell you. It's kind of hard to say, but it's something that they need to kind of look into, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because
And
you kind of run into the situation like what was the God, I can't remember the name of that game, but the Mega Man creator, he made that Mighty Number Nine. That was it. People were stoked about that, and then it kind of came out, and it had similar gameplay to traditional Mega Man games, but it just didn't hold up. Like it just wasn't that
oh,
good.
that that thing was going to be in trouble from the get go. I mean, just from the marketing, uh, where it was calling like, uh, what was it?
Oh,
There's a
I know what you're
commercial,
talking about. Like they made a crack at some kind of like people who watch
yeah,
anime
like
or something.
like a lonely anime boy on prom night or something like that. They said,
Oh yeah,
and that was like the beginning of their
it's like
problems.
the marketing from like the Unreal games of like the early 2000s. Like it had a time and a place and it worked back then, but it doesn't really work now as you know things have changed, especially from a pop culture perspective. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, so you like Devil May Cry? It's good, it's fun, and just straight to the point. Um, I feel like the last game I played, and this is gonna sound bad because it was a long time ago, but the last game that had similar action and straightforwardness to that kind of style was a game called Vanquish. Do you remember that by
yes,
Platinum
I do.
Games? So like that's the last real one of those types of games I played because I never really got into Bayonetta. Um, or any other games like that. But I loved Vanquish, and I don't know. Maybe I should get Devil May Cry 5 a try. I just don't have any nostalgia or investment into the series or the characters or Dante or the backstory, and I think that's ultimately why
Well,
I haven't really been interested in it.
to be honest, like this is my first Devil May Cry game in the like main canon, the main series, because the only other Devil May Cry game I've actually played was the one by Ninja Theory, DMC Devil May Cry, and that was the game that made me be like, huh, maybe I should check out Devil May Cry next time they come up with something, and that's kind of what got me into uh, wanting to play this game.
Gotcha. So overall, good. You're enjoying it. Um, so I'd like to hear your thoughts once you beat it. So you kind of look back on it as a whole. So we'll have to revisit that.
Yeah, definitely. I should
Um,
be. I think I'm probably halfway.
yeah. So kind of just circle back to Marvel. Quick bit of news in the entertainment front, not really video game related, but you know who cares? It's our podcast, so we can do what we want. Um, Disney takes back James Gunn, and this story comes from The Verge, but basically, Disney rehires James Gunn to direct Guardians of the Galaxy 3 after firing him for old tweets that they probably shouldn't have fired him for. So, this is good news. I mean, I think back when this happened, James's uh, forwardness to say, yeah, this was me. I did these things. It was wrong. I've grown from it. I've apologized for it. I'm apologizing now. Terribly sorry. And Disney's just kind of like, the mouse taketh away. It was like, no, be gone. And then he had a lot of support from fans, from actors, and other directors. And Disney was just kind of like, nope, we've made our decision. Nope. And then they rehired him. And I kind of think this is because not only did Kevin Feige, who's like the keeper of the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Studios, not only did he vouch for Gunn, but a lot of the other directors reportedly that Marvel Studios approached and Disney approached to direct Guardians of the Galaxy 3 stood behind Gunn. They were like, nah, we're not directing it. Nope. Because I heard they approached Edgar Wright, who's done, you know, Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, and they approached Taika Waititi, who did Thor Ragnarok and What We Do in the Shadows,
Yeah,
and
if they came up with, if they had anybody else, I would probably want it to be Taika Waititi.
yeah, but when those guys stuck behind him, they were like, "Nah, we're not doing it. We're not doing it." And then and then DC's like, "Yo, we'll take you. You want Suicide Squad 2? Because you can have Suicide Squad 2." And then Gunn's like, "I don't really want Will Smith to play, in this movie anymore. How about Idris Elba? Yes, please. Best casting decision ever." Um, and Marvel was probably just having a little bit of a regret there, but it's good to hear that he's back. Originally, they said they were just going to use the script. Now they're bringing Gunn back on, and I think it's good because I think Gunn had a lot of he did a lot behind the scenes for Marvel too. He worked pretty closely with Kevin Feige, who runs the whole ship there at Marvel, and they were working together to develop this whole cinematic universe that we've come to love. So it's really cool to see him back on, and I'm excited for it. So I don't know if you what your thoughts on it, but yeah.
Yeah, and there's the added benefit that because of the fact that he'll be back, you don't have to worry about Dave Bautista anymore. Because when James Gunn got fired from the production, Batista was threatening to leave the cast, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I think a lot of those people were binded by contracts with Marvel that would have been pretty hard or expensive to break out of. And I think even Chris Pratt came forward being like, "Yo, we're not happy with this, but we'll do what we have to do for the fans and for Marvel." But Batista was pretty vocal about it. He was like, "What the fuck, Disney? Like, WTF? Like, come on. Like, you've had a lot worse working for you." So, and I've heard nothing but great things from people that have worked with James Gunn, actors that I've met at cons and talked to, and I personally met James Gunn at a movie theater one Thursday evening in St. Louis, Missouri, by pure happenchance, like pure randomness. Just walked into the theater, went to go see Blade Runner 2049, and in walks James Gunn. So yeah, I got to meet the guy. So it was
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I got a picture with him, and it was a really down to earth guy. And then I met his brother on a train coming back from Chicago. So I've met the whole Gunn. I met the whole Gunn
It's like
family.
falling into celebrity.
Yeah, just like yeah. So I met James Gunn when I went to go see Blade Runner 2049. So technically, I watched Blade Runner 2049 with James Gunn. So I can add that to the resume. But and then
humble brag.
yeah, just a little. I too am incredibly humble. So but yeah, then I was on the way back from Chicago. We were actually leaving C2E2, and James and his brother are both from St. Louis, so it makes sense why I would run into them. James at the theater, and then Sean. But we were coming back from C2E2, a big Comic-Con convention that's held in Chicago every year. And we were taking the train back because, trains are more fun and driving sucks. And then we were getting off the train, and Sean Gunn walks up behind us and calls an Uber like the rest of us. So I think he was with his girlfriend or his wife, but he was really nice too. He was a really cool guy. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm excited that James gets to complete this story that he started. First director to direct an entire franchise of Marvel. Fun fact. But yeah, so it's cool. Now we'll move to the news. We got a lot of stories this week. I don't know if we'll get to cover them all, but we'll do our best. So first story of the day comes from Game Informer, and Hyper Light Drifter dev announces new game. So this game is called Solar Ash Kingdom, and it's the latest game developed by Heart Machine. I had no idea that was the name of the developers for Hyper Light Drifter. But it's kind of an indie company, is my understanding.
Yeah.
two things about this, maybe three. I don't know, two. So it looks cool. If you guys haven't seen the trailer, go watch the trailer. It's very funky, artistic, very reminiscent of the art style of Hyper Light Drifter, but more, I think, more modern. I think it's more 3D and more action oriented.
Hyper Light Drifter, an excellent game, by the way.
Yeah, I never got to play it, but I've watched a couple Let's Plays, and it looks awesome. Just didn't really have the time for it.
And a few things.
The one thing that bugs me, the one thing that bugs me about this is that I think it's going to be a day one exclusive, for the Epic Game Store, and that kind of bugs me, because now we're getting into the segmentation of online distribution of video games, and that's never a good thing in my book. So
I was kind of in the same field as you, but in recent days, I've kind of grown weary of Steam, and I'm kind of just rooting for the Epic Store to pass it. I mean, that's my own biases, but I mean,
my
whatever.
only thing about Epic is they got a lot of catching up to do, and they got a lot of growing pains to do that Steam is still trying to work through, to be honest. So one of the things is customer support. There's no customer support through Epic really right now. Who do you talk to if you need a refund? Who do you there's just a lot of systems not in place yet that have a full fledged out system of online distribution. I personally would root more for GOG games, but it just seems like Steam is this 800-pound gorilla, and I honestly think EA Origins is probably a better platform than at the Epic Game Store right now. Not to say that the Epic Game Store won't get there. I think they probably will, because they got an excellent background. They got Fortnite, that Fortnite money. That's so. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. But it's kind of giving me the funny feelings when you start to go exclusive, because Metro 20, the new Metro Exodus, did this. They were on Steam. People had bought it on Steam. And then Epic comes in and swoops in and is like, "Yo, no, it's an Epic Games Store exclusive," and you couldn't even buy it on Steam anymore. And I don't think that's a good thing for the industry. It
was only a timed exclusive, though, wasn't it?
No, you can't buy it on Steam at all anymore. So those who already purchased it, pre-purchased it, could still download it from Steam, but you couldn't buy it from Steam anymore, which is kind of odd. That's like no take backsies type thing. It's weird. I didn't like how Epic did that, and how I don't know. I think the next I think the next 2 or 3 years in video games is going to get really interesting with online games, distribution platforms, and streaming. That's all I'll say.
I don't really have a problem with it. Because if you have a problem with that, then you probably have a problem with exclusives on consoles as well. But I don't have a problem with that.
See, I don't though. I don't have a problem with exclusives on consoles, especially when things are owned by first party companies. So like Last of Us and God of War, those are properties owned by Sony. So you can't really get mad that they don't put their games out somewhere else. Metro wasn't owned by anybody, or wasn't specifically owned by Epic and or Steam or a distribution platform. They just chose one over the other. It just felt weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird.
Oh, before we move on to the next story, I just want to point out that the Hyperlight Drifter team tweeted out that their new game's going to be in the same universe as Hyperlight Drifter, and it's being scored by the same composer as well. So
Yeah, and
those
Hyper Light
two
Drifter
things to look forward to.
had a really good soundtrack too, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah. So the next story comes from Games Radar, and it's that Gearbox is teasing another game on top of their Borderlands 3 reveal for PAX East. We all know Borderlands 3 is coming. It's too much of a moneymaker for Gearbox. I kind of have salty feelings about Gearbox. I'll take that back. I don't have salty feelings about Gearbox. I think the devs and everybody that works at Gearbox are extremely talented. They've made great games. I'm not a big fan of Randy Pitchford. That's all. So
I don't think anybody's a fan of Randy Pitchford these days.
I don't even think Randy Pitchford's a fan of Randy Pitchford. Like, so this guy's it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. The dude he has the right energy. He just puts it in the wrong place and says things he shouldn't say. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you just got to separate him from the company
from
itself.
Gearbox. Yeah, it's like separate the art from the artist type 3. So not much is known about this game they're teasing on top of. Well, like, we all know what Borderlands is, so we're expecting great things from Borderlands 3, I'm sure. But the image that Gearbox, the official Gearbox Twitter tweeted out, was a picture of like a disassembled robot. It's kind of a funky, like, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like almost like a 1960s like Spies Like Us, like type, kind of like art style. And then they just continued to tweet out just like robot gifs and robot pictures and anything related to robots. They just kept tweeting out and replies to people who were asking about the game. So it's obviously going to be a game with some kind of robot element. That's kind of all we know. But if you guys haven't seen the image, check out Gearbox official Twitter page. You can check it out. So any thoughts from you?
Some people have been speculating that it's Project's 1v1. And obviously we don't know if that's the case or not, but that's what some people are thinking it could be. All I know is that hopefully they're able to make something that really does resonate with people, because their last excursion with a new IP, which was Battleborn, if you remember, that did not go over too well.
That was a rough one for them. They had a pretty sweet booth at E3, though. I'll say that. But
it was really unfortunate. They came out like around the same time Overwatch had its full release.
You can't compete with Overwatch, man. You know, what was that game from Boss Key Games, Cliffy B's company?
Lawbreakers.
Lawbreakers came out around the same time too, and it was just, you couldn't compete with Overwatch, dude. Like that game, you just couldn't do it. And like, I get it. The arena shooters, class-based shooters were hot right then before battle royales took the center stage. But man, to quote, I think Cliffy B himself, like, Overwatch was this 800-pound gorilla that you just couldn't, that you were up against. So they were up against a lot. And I felt for the guy, man. Like, all he wanted to do was make games, and it just didn't happen. I ran into him randomly too. I don't know if I told you that. I just keep running into these people. I was at a bar in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I ran into him. He's a super nice guy, super awesome dude. I met him and his wife. So, yeah, but like you said, like,
it's I could talk a little bit about Boss Key Games, but I don't want to get into it in this podcast.
Maybe a future podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're excited for Borderlands 3. We are excited to see what this game teasing from Gearbox is going to lead us, and we both hate Randy Pitchford. So that's a takeaway. Another thing is that came out last week, which turned out to be pure speculation on a lot of people's parts and a analyst's part, was that Sony would be buying Take-Two Interactive. This main story comes from MarketWatch.com. It's kind of a stock market website that kind of has the happenings and the rumblings of the stock market and companies. But yeah, apparently Sony was rumored to be taking over Take-Two, which would have been a huge fucking deal for the game industry. You know how many IPs they would own?
Yeah, like freaking NBA 2K, GTA, Red Dead.
Yeah, and then taking those exclusive or not taking those exclusive or getting streaming rights to those games. Who the heck knows? But yeah, after the news broke, Take-Two's shares went up.
No. What happened was their shares went up in speculation, and then that's what caused the rumors to start happening.
But it's I don't think so. I don't think if this would happen, people are freaking out. Oh, like Sony's going to own all these IPs. They're going to make them PlayStation exclusives, and I don't think they would do that. They'd be cutting half their the potential income away, and there's so much money to be made in those games. But I would think they would get exclusive things like streaming rights, which is going to become a big deal in the future. But I don't think they would take a lot of these IPs and make them exclusives. I think they would charge royalties and fees to Microsoft to be able to, use them. But I don't know if that's really going to. I don't know if it's really going to happen. I think this was just a rumor.
Yeah, they came out and like refuted it a lot because it was really starting to kind of mess with their shares and everything, and that when that happens and everything, they need to clear something up. So they came out, I think it was yesterday, to strongly refute those claims.
And they were just like, nah, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
Speaking of streaming, Google hires Jade Raymond as VP. The story comes from Engadget, but this is a big deal because Jade has years and years of experience going back from the 90s in the games industry, and here she is being hired by Google, who's talking about. There's a lot of rumors around Google, especially with GDC next week, about them coming out with a streaming console, a streaming service for games, and now they got Jade Raymond as VP. I mean, Google's making a big push into this area, it feels like, and I think we're going to know more by the end of next week.
So, like, the biggest knock against Google and all their gaming aspirations until now is that they never really seemed to take the idea of gaming seriously until recently. And the fact that they hired Jade Raymond for this position really shows that they are serious about getting into the games industry this time, and that they will be putting out something to compete against the likes of Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo.
Well, they definitely have the infrastructure in place for it, and not many other companies do. I would say Microsoft's their biggest competitor right now because they have their servers all over the world. I don't know if Sony has that kind of same infrastructure in place. I think they could get there quite easily, but as of the time being,
they did purchase Gaikai, but that is kind of far away from what Microsoft and Google have.
Yeah,
but
I think that pales.
They should be able to build something.
So, it's exciting to see what happens, and we'll know more next week after GDC. Do you think streaming is the way of the future, or just an option for gamers?
I would say that for right now, not really. Eventually we'll get there, but right now, no, not in the immediate uh, future and not in the present.
See, I think this is more a geographically based question, and I'm going to explain that here in a second. But I think because of the piss poor internet infrastructure in the United States, this is it's going to be some growing pains for these services. So I think that's why Microsoft is kind of rolling out these two consoles that they're supposedly releasing. One being a successor to the next Xbox, and the other being a streaming only device. It won't even have a drive to put in a game or a movie. Um, so I think they're giving gamers options there and giving people the ability to make the decision whether to stream their games or download them uh, in their entirety. Um, but I think a lot of other countries have a lot faster, better, more cheaper internet infrastructures in place. From the
And,
UK to Korea to Japan to most of Europe, and honestly to Australia. Like, a lot of these other countries just have a lot better internet than the US does.
and it's not just that; it's the fact that not everybody has access to broadband. There's a lot of places um, that either have slow, extremely slow internet, or don't even have access to uh, the internet.
Yeah, like a lot of these rural towns, or maybe some of these, Midwestern states that just aren't on a coastal city next to major cities, unless you're like closer to Chicago, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
something like that would be pretty unfeasible for people in that kind of a situation.
yeah. I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains, but as time goes on, this is just a problem that's going to correct itself. New technologies are going to come out. Introduction of like 5G networks and things like that that really take hold and create a really fast network for the global scale that is the United States. Um, I think that'll be a big changer. Our next news story, though, was the Google console, which we kind of already touched based on. This story comes from Ars Technica, but all signs are pointing to a console announcement for Google at GDC. So I don't know. I'm kind of. Do you really think there's going to be a console, like a streaming console, or
Yeah,
is
so
this going to be a
this is
service at first? Because they did that. They did that test that you were a part of, right?
yeah, that's why I was surprised by this news because I was expecting just a streaming service, not a actual hardware. Um, I I guess I could see it since Google's been leading more into hardware lately.
Yeah, with their Pixel line and their smart speakers and their Chromecasts and things like that. But if they do release a console with the addition of their hiring of Jade Raymond as VP, I mean that'll be taking things pretty seriously. I think, as you were saying.
Yeah, I guess it would be similar to that streaming box that uh, Xbox is coming out with later this year. The Xbox S that's going to be all digital.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's like one of the two consoles that I mentioned earlier that they're going to be releasing. So the next Xbox next year, obviously, and then later this year the streaming only box. Like it'll be interesting. Um, that's for sure. That might be something I might buy. I don't know. I haven't touched my Xbox One in a while, but not out of pure hatred for the console. Just most of what I could play on my Xbox, I could play on my PC. But if they have they have a digital console box that's costs far less, but still lets me play some titles that I can't play on my PC. Yeah, I might pick one up.
Yeah, I since they're spreading out their content to like everywhere now and everything, like I'm almost kind of like, why do I need to buy an Xbox if I can just play all the games on PC or on Switch?
I think they're just giving gamers options. They're giving gamers choice, and I think choice is always a good thing, especially in this industry when sometimes we don't get choice. So, but yeah, I think they're being very open about things, and
Yeah, they
and
do
that
want
that
to have their product available to as many people as possible. So I can
yeah,
understand it from that aspect.
I think that's the key thing there. Um, but yeah, moving on. The next bit of news comes from Polygon. Um, Left 4 Dead, that game that we all wanted another sequel to. Well, it's getting I guess a spiritual sequel. Turtle Rock, the company behind it, is creating a game called Back for Blood, which is another co-op zombie shooter, and I think this is pretty damn awesome. The original Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 were probably some of the most fun co-op experiences I've ever had playing co-op experiences. Um, they were just fun. They were just fun.
Yeah,
They were well done. I had a lot of fun with friends playing those games, either on the couch or online.
yeah. Back when I was in college and everything, like I would go to the dorm across the hall with my friend, and we would just play Left 4 Dead like all night and everything, and like people would like gather around and everything, watching us or joining in and everything. And yeah, just a lot of fond memories of that game.
Yeah, it was just so good. I think the market's grown a lot, so I'd be interested to see how gamers of this generation, especially the younger gamers that have been battle royale crazy for games like Fortnite and PUBG and Apex, how they take to these co-op experiences that are smaller in scale. Um, I'd
I
be
guess
really interested to see it.
that does beg the question: would you pay $60 for an experience like this nowadays? Uh,
Um, I would personally, but that's more of me going up based off of experience. How do you convince new gamers to try this out? Like, how do you sell that to them?
yeah, it's interesting because the gameplay is going to be fun, but the fact that it's going to be, if it ends up being just like Left 4 Dead and everything, then it's only going to have that one mode basically, and that may
Um,
not be enough.
yeah, well, it's interesting because this kind of style of game. You remember the game Evolve?
Yes, I did.
Very similar co-op game. Co-op teams fighting a single boss that was controlled by another player. Didn't really take off, and I mean, it had a lot of similarities to Left 4 Dead in its design, and it tanked, man. It super tanked, and that was right around when Overwatch was coming out, and people were Titanfall and Modern Warfare crazy and Call of Duty crazy, and like it didn't stick. It didn't stick.
I do think
So
part of that was because of the fact that they made or they tried to get too sophisticated with the enemy aspect of the game, where the person playing the bad guy had to evolve, as the title says. Trying to gather resources, gather food so that they can grow and then eventually become like the uh, like a menace that's gonna actually take some time to actually defeat. And because of that extra complexity and everything, it just made it harder to for the average gamer to like understand or actually get to that point where they could be that, all powerful monster, right? Uh, and so that would kind of like bog the experience down a little bit. And then you
Yeah,
also had the specialized characters that all do different things. And if you're not playing with people in your friends list and everything, if you're just playing with randos and everything, and you're new, like they're not going to have the patience for you to learn how to use these different abilities, right?
yeah. I mean, I see where you're coming from. So I don't know, man. It's definitely a game I probably, to be honest with you, will be picking up. I'm excited to play it. And if it's anything, if it's 50% of what Left 4 Dead was, I probably will have a blast. So,
Yeah, same here, same here.
um, next up on the list, man, it's been a busy week. So next up on the list is comes from uploadvr.com. For those of you interested in VR, Oculus is announcing or is rumored to announce details on the next lineup in the Rift headsets, called the Rift S at GDC. This is kind of a big deal because the original Oculus Rift came out in 2016. They've released other headsets like the Oculus Go and things like that, but nothing in the Rift lineup, which is like their bread and butter lineup. It's like the big one that connects to PCs and creates these really um,
High-end experiences.
high end experiences. Yeah, so I'm excited. It's supposed to have a lot of new stuff in it. I've heard from a couple people that it's going to have inside out tracking, which means you won't have to place sensors in the corners of your rooms or on your table, in front of you, behind you. It will literally just track itself in 3D space from the headset itself and sensors that are on the camera that look out into the world. So a much easier setup. There's rumors that it could be wireless. I don't know how much those are true, but if it's wireless and has inside out tracking, that'll just make the whole VR experience much more easier and to pick up and to swallow for some people, I think, because the setup for any VR headset as of 2018 is a little bit rough, unless you buy one of the wireless adapters for the Vive. But yeah, I'm excited to see it, man. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see new hardware. We're finally getting into the next gen of VR, and I'm super
Oh,
excited for
dude,
that.
dude. Oh my gosh. If you haven't watched it yet, like after we finish this podcast, go watch this, okay? I will link it to you. It's called Boneworks, and it's by the company that did Hover Junkers. They've been working on this for a while, and holy shit, I shit you not, this is what VR is going to. This is going to change VR. Just the amount of work they're putting into this. So they're using a Vive in the video I watched, but they're using the new knuckle controllers from Valve, which can mimic pressure and picking things up. So they've developed this game, which they haven't talked a whole lot about, but they showed a lot of the systems that they were using in the full physics system that they're putting into the game to allow people to experience VR in a different way. And it literally almost made my jaw drop because of some of the things they were doing. Like it just made me think of Portal. So in one instance, they had the guy pick up a box in VR, walk over to a ramp that he was trying to get to a ledge that was higher up. It was like one of those seesaw ramps. So he walked on it and it fell down, so he couldn't get up to the ledge. So he walked back over, picked up a box that actually had weight to it in the VR space. So when he picked it up, he felt the weight, not physically, but he felt it, and he walked over, put the box on the other end, and walked up, and then jumped onto a ledge using the knuckle controller. So he had to like actually grab at the space above him to grab onto it, and then pull himself up physically in physical space to pull himself up in VR. And it just was like, holy shit, this is Ready Player One. Like, we are getting there.
So is this like one of those kind of like what do you call it? Like one of those kind of, where you're at a location and they have like,
No, this is something where you can like you can play in your room. Like, they're building this as a game you can download, and it's for the next generation of controllers that are coming out that can help, that can sense pressure and sensitivity and things like that. I mean, I'm going to send you the video, and
yeah,
like, you'll see what I mean when I watch it, or when you watch it. Like, you'll be like, oh shit, this is like where it's going. This is what VR could be. Like,
yeah,
it's not just it's not just a world where we get to sit in and experience or interact with. Like, this is a world we can seriously lose yourself in. Like, I was just picturing a Portal 3 game while this guy was doing all this stuff, and I was like, if this is what Valve is working on, like, holy crap, this will sell some headsets.
yeah. So send me that link, and I'll also include in the description of our SoundCloud.
Yeah. Guys, check it out. I shit you not. It's called Boneworks, and it looks wild. But back to the Oculus Rift. Yeah, they're going to announce it. Hopefully, we'll get to see some of the tech that's behind it, and we'll hear more about it. I won't be able to attend GDC this year, unfortunately. I usually try to go every year, but we'll be able to talk about it next week's podcast. Next up on the story is on the news is Google's targeting ads at gamers who don't make in-app purchases. Now, this story comes to us from Engadget as well, but basically based on, it's an AI algorithm that determines whether or not you are somebody who likely purchases or makes in-app purchases. And then if you aren't, when you download it and play a game, you will be forced to watch more ads than people who actually make in-app purchases on the regular, which is kind of fucky. I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of stupid in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I don't know if they've implemented it yet, but I have been noticing that in like the games that I play on my phone, like I've been seeing more ads lately. So
do you not make in-app purchases, Ryan?
I do not.
Then you're gonna see multiple ads from now on because the robot tells you to.
Yay!
This is so stupid. Like, how does this algorithm work? How does it base its metrics? Like this is absurd. I don't make a whole lot of in-app purchases. I mean, I've bought a lot of apps in the past, but I don't make a whole lot of in-app purchases, and I consider myself a pretty damn good gamer when it comes to like the commercial aspect. You know, I buy my games, I play them, I give money to the publishers and the developers, and I play my games. Like, but you want to show me more ads because I don't make 50-cent purchases that add up to $100 over time?
Yeah, I guess it's their way of trying to make it so that the app developers and they can make more money off of the people playing, since they want more than just the whales to be making the money for these apps, right?
Dude, it's just stupid. It's just, I mean, it's great for advertisers because they get more screen time, which, if it's great for advertisers, it's great for developers and publishers because they get paid, which I guess is in turn is kind of healthy for the industry if they're getting paid. But at the same time, you don't want to piss off the people buying your games. So,
True.
like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I hope this is something that just doesn't take off, but who the hell knows? I think we're in for a lot of surprises in this in this streaming game future of ours.
Yeah, it's
Like, what if we play games in the future that we paid for? Like, say I'm playing Assassin's Creed 19, because they're going to make 19 of those probably. But like, I'm going to play Assassin's Creed 19, and then I want to switch over to, I don't know, Destiny 9. Am I going to have to watch a fucking ad between switching games? Like,
gosh.
Can you imagine that?
I just recently I just recently saw a thing that reminded me of a pad that Sony used to have, where they would pause a game and show you a commercial for however many seconds or for like a minute, and then it would I think you would have to say skip. You would have to physically say skip or something like that, and then you could start playing again. And gosh, that's just such a horrible thought that could have happened.
It's a dystopian future for gamers everywhere.
And I've been thinking, like, what if they started like playing ads on loading screens?
Oh, I bet that's a thing somewhere already. I bet that's a thing somewhere. That has to be a thing somewhere. It's too easy not to be.
Oh gosh, I really hope not. That would be the worst timeline. We would be in the worst timeline.
We're already in the worst timeline. The last bit of our news, and to help close out the show, also comes from Polygon. Valve is getting in on this streaming business as well. They released an beta update if you opt in for the beta version of Steam that allows you to turn your copy of Steam on your personal computer into a server, which in turn will allow you to stream your entire Steam library from anywhere in the world. Currently, this only works for people with Android phones or another PC running Steam, because Apple's walled garden they don't want competitors on there, so there's no Steam app for iOS. Yay. But I think this is kind of but Valve dipping its toes into this whole streaming future that seems to be where we're heading, or at least where a lot of companies are seeing a lot of money in. You know what I mean? Microsoft's doing it, Sony's doing it, Google's doing it, and now Valve's giving the tools or setting things up. I think this is basically just a beta test for them. Like, how does our streaming service work? How does our code work running on average machines? Like, I think this is them setting themselves up to run a streaming service themselves.
I mean, it's all just a race to, be first at it.
But first isn't always best, man. First isn't always best.
True. And man, it's just the day that we can do this and we don't have to worry about, the things like lag and all that stuff.
Or
it's going to be a magic
degrading image quality, because we got these 4K TV now. So we're going to have 8K TVs in a couple years. Like, most of these things stream at 1080p, man. Like, if you're lucky, if you have a good connection. So I want to use my 4K TV for video games, man. Like, so give me a download or give me a disc.
Yeah, and like, man, I want to be able to, just play games, on airplanes or while I'm in a car or whatever. And the Nintendo Switch kind of lets you do that, but you don't have access to your entire. Well, I guess you could have access to your entire library if you just have digital games and stuff, but I don't know. It's just being able to play like powerful games, like games that require like a good, like really good hardware and everything like that, like demanding games on the go and everything is just exciting.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm excited to see where it takes us. Mm, let the companies battle it out, and hopefully it doesn't hurt the gamers and consumers too much. But uh, but I think that gives us close to about an hour. So we're gonna close out the show with a couple games coming out in the next week. A big one coming out is from Software. It's Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Um, that's the company that made Bloodborne and Dark Souls. Well, you think you'll be picking this one up?
Yeah, I will. I will definitely.
Yeah, I think I will too, man. This is a big thing coming from me because this is somebody who picked up Bloodborne, and I got like, I shit you not. I understand a game is supposed to be hard, but to me, there's a difference between being hard and just being frustrating for the sake of being frustrating. And you can call me not a real gamer. You can call me like, oh, get good, son. I don't give a shit. So, like in Bloodborne, when I like, okay, yeah, the game's hard. You got to take your time. You got to learn where the enemies are coming from. You got to learn the bosses and their moves and shit like that. Okay, so I played Bloodborne and I died. So I died again and I died again and I died again. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to learn. And then I went a fucking hour without dying, and I guess that there was no save point in between that hour. So when I died
Ooh,
again, I got set back a whole hour, and I was like, "Fuck this shit!
oh,
This is stupid." Like I don't, like I don't mind it being hard, but I don't want to have to replay a whole hour. Like,
yeah.
but I heard Sekiro is they're kind of updating their design principles. It's still going to be challenging. It's still going to be hard. It's still going to be uh, everything based off of what Bloodborne and Dark Souls was, but it'll be a much more approachable game for people like myself and people who just don't, aren't
I wonder. I
sadists.
wonder if it will be more like Neo. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, yeah, I remember Neo. Maybe so. I just hope it's more because Bloodborne was fun, man. I never really got into Dark Souls. I tried, it just wasn't my cup of tea. But I picked up Bloodborne. I was excited for it. I love the art direction. I like the setting and the combat. It just I don't know, man. It rubbed me the wrong way when it did that kind of stuff. I was like,
Yeah,
I don't have
this,
time for this.
I
Like,
have to say that this like is a lot more up my alley than Bloodborne or Dark Souls because of the aesthetic and
yeah. Did you
everything.
ever play
I
Bloodborne? Like, are my frustrations like alone
I
here?
played Dark Souls, the original,
Okay.
and I just did not like it. It
Yeah, see, and like you and I, we play video games a lot. We play hard video games. Sometimes we put games on the hard difficulty just because the fuck it. But like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, man, like I think it was almost like a gamers got kind of like like some kind of like factor that they could hold themselves higher if they beat Bloodborne or Dark Souls, and then you see fucking people beating it with a goddamn DDR pad, and you're just like, okay, whatever. Maybe I'm just a bad gamer.
yeah, like no, but that's extremely rare that anybody is that good at anything in life. So
And the next up on the list is Unravel 2, and I'm excited to see the second one of this game come out. I did play the first, I never did beat it, but I picked it up solely on the fact that I got to meet the developer at E3 when he announced his game. Really humble dude. He was really awesome. Cool story behind that. After they announced it, he was from a small team from overseas, and his team could only afford to send one person, so they sent the creator of Yarny and Unravel to E3 to reveal the game in front of thousands, possibly millions of people who were watching the live stream, and he was ecstatic. So we were walking the show floor. I think you came. You were there that year too. I don't know if you met the guy with me. I
yeah,
can't
I think I
recall,
took
but
your
I
picture
was
with
in
them,
the.
didn't I?
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe you did, but we were standing there in the EA booth. This is like shortly after like Reggie and his posse walked by us, and then we met Peter Moore. But he was standing there, or no, we were standing there watching the trailer on the screens, and then we saw this guy walk up next to us, and I recognized his tattoos from the conference. I was like, "Holy shit, this is the developer Yarny!" And he was like almost tearing up because he was like, and I said, I looked over and I said, "Hey, you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is just amazing. I'm seeing my game on the screen here. This is just amazing. The team's gonna love this." And he took a picture of it. I was like, "Whoa!" Like that's fucking awesome, dude. Like that's really cool.
Yeah,
Like so I'm excited to see the second one come out, and to see the continued success of that company. So that's really
yeah, he was a
cool.
really shy dude. So like it was amazing that he was able to go up on stage and present the way he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's cool, and um, give the game trailer a watch. Unravel 2 is going to have some co-op mechanics in it with two Yarny characters. I think like one's red, one's blue, or something like that. But so there might be a lot of co-op puzzles in play, kind of like there was in like Little Big Planet and a few other games like that, like Trine. So I'm excited. I might pick it up just for the hell of it, just to support the company. You know, I like to do that. Um, but yeah, that concludes the end of our show. Unless you had anything else you wanted to say.
No, just if you like this podcast, follow us on SoundCloud or Spotify, and I actually started uploading them on my YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, check out the YouTube. Um, it's a good place to listen to it. We got some sweet graphics up on there. Yeah, you can find me, Justin Staggs, on Twitter at Writer of Brohan. That is Writer with a Y of Brohan. Yeah, you can find me there. I sometimes take pictures. I follow cons. I follow the game industry. You can just see my happenings on there. And yeah, where can people find you, Ryan?
Well, I write about video games and technology on inverse.com. You can check out my articles there, or you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan McNeal24. And my YouTube channel is MC123.
That's EMCEE123. All right, people, thanks for listening. This has been the SideQuesters, episode 4, coming at